So episode 2, we're going to be talking about net lease commercial real estate, the pros and cons, how it becomes profitable, and why you want to work up to this, and how it can be extremely difficult for people to kind of get into this and break the barrier into this, because a lot of these corporations and institutional investors pay cash. So I worked for a publicly traded company that was comprised of entirely net leased properties. So single tenant net lease, not the multi-unit, like, you go to your grocery store and there's all that commercial space. These are single tenants. I'm going to use an example. One of them is a Popeyes, and I'm going to have the link to the listing in the description. And this would be pretty much a break-even property where you're just paying down the mortgage if you were to approach it. And I'm going to go over a few examples, and what you see is that if these properties do get financed, in my experience, it's usually 50% down, which is a tremendous amount of money. And I'm going to talk about how I want to get into this and how I want to scale there, and how you can get these down payments so the property positively cash flows. I have a short video here on my channel about one that does cash flow. The Dollar Trees, Dollar Generals are usually not grade A tenants. They don't really provide financials. So I'm going to show a very low yielding property. So if you come into a ton of cash, inheritance, I know it's not very common, but this is a good, safe investment for you to take. So this Popeyes, had the listing in part of the video here, is listed for $2,420,000, and that's yielding 5%, which is a pretty low cap rate. You're going to want to look for 7.5%, 8% when you're looking, but I'm just going to use this as an example to show how you break even. So the purchase price is $2,420,000. So with 30% down, that's $726,000 plus your closing costs. You're looking about $800,000 down. Tremendous amount of money, and you're looking at a break even with that. So your loan amount would be $1.7 million, which is 30% down. And you're financing at around 6%, 5.75%. If you find the right lender, usually with commercial real estate, it's 25% down minimum. And any residential real estate that's over 4 units, it goes over that 2 to 4 unit threshold, it becomes commercial again. So you're told, 20% down, 20% down. That's the rule of thumb. Usually only works for single family houses. And these net leases I've seen as high as 60% down and 55% down. And people get creative with the financing to get that down payment and are able to pull equity out of the properties, but I'll speak upon that in a future video. Right now, I just want to talk about this property, why it's such a good tenant, but why it's not really the best investment for someone just starting out. And I have a lot of experience managing these properties, for a large institution, but I personally do not own any. I'm looking to scale into it by using my existing residential real estate and the equity in that and the appreciations that to leverage a down payment into a net lease. Ideally 40%, but, taking in the day time here. So your loan amount is $1,700,000. And if you find a lender, usually commercial is 10 years as well, but I'm going to spread this one out over 30 years because there are lenders that will finance this for 30 years. And you want a good interest rate environment, so now is not really a good time. So at the $2.4 million purchase price with a 5% cap rate, as it's listed, the annual base rent is $120,000 a year. $121,000 to be exact. So you're making roughly over $10,000 in annual base rent. Now, net leases, once again, they pay the property taxes and they pay the insurance and the maintenance. And it's very hands-off. You don't need a property manager. So these are a lot of the pros of these types of properties. But $1.7 million at 6%, that's the annual rate, spread out over 30-year mortgage, is a $10,019 payment. And that $10,019 payment versus your $10,083 in rent, you're not making you know, your profit, if everything goes perfect, is $64 a month. Now, why these are attractive is Popeyes is a very good tenant. They have a corporate guarantee usually from the Popeyes corporation itself. So if the operator starts to fail, they'll pay your rent. And that's what usually these lower kind of net leases are. I'm going to make a follow-up video, episode 3, showing a much better property. I have like a short video here, about a minute long, that shows like a good example of one that has about $3,000 in profit. That's a little less expensive, but these quick service restaurants are pretty dependable tenants, especially down south. You know, as you know, fast food could be more popular down south. And this one is specifically in Georgia, which is a pretty landlord favored state, especially for commercial real estate. So you would probably want to negotiate down here to a 6.5% cap rate, and the interest rates go very much in line with the return. So that's why you're at a break even. But say you had the cash and you put the 2.4 million, now you're cash flowing 120,000 a year, which is more than most people make. So that's why it's very attractive for institutional investors who can get a large, what's called an ABS note, where they borrow $800 million or $1 billion from a bank, and they pay a fixed rate, and then they're able to go and purchase a pool of properties that they can go and buy and sell, and they just have to report it to the bank when they dispose of one, and if they're purchasing one, and they're paying one lump sum payment on this ABS, asset-backed securitized note. So that's why it's attractive for these institutional investors. I mean, if you're looking to get into these net leases, you do need a good amount of capital, and it doesn't yield these crazy returns that, you know, people expect with real estate. You're pretty much almost breaking even in the beginning, or have to supplement it with someone else. But just to use a quick example, if you got the purchase price down to $2,178,000, which is more of a 6% return, and you were able to put, say, $1 million down, you got $1 million inheritance, or you sold a house. Not very common, but you know, some people, you know, have it. Some people out there are, you know, are ready to get into this stuff and may not be knowledgeable. Maybe they're coming from a different line of work that they were successful in, or business, or they sold a bunch of residential real estate and are looking for their next move. So with 50% down, you're financing $1,089,000. So I'll just use 1.1 million because, you know, you got closing costs and other fees. At that same 6% rate, you now have a $6,400 payment, and then you can go and refinance. Remember, all of these net leases have rent escalations, which is you know, a good thing, because it increases the property value. Not the book value of the property, which is the value of the property, underlying property itself, but the sale of the lease. Quick service restaurants like Popeyes, Burger King, Taco Bell are very attractive because they're very consistent tenants. KFC's another good one. So circling back, you have, you know, 1.1 million loan amount, which, you know, people have taken out for very nice residential houses in, like, you know, parts of Miami, parts of Florida, and New York City, California. Pretty average home price, you know, in like Irvine, California. So you're paying $6,400 a month, and your rent for the first 3 years on this property, I believe it was, it's $10,000. So that's a $3,500 profit. Not crazy, but it's very, very passive. Residential real estate is not passive. You know, people say, oh, generate passive income. It's not passive. And until you can scale up into something like this, that it's very hands-off, or you just have enough residential properties that you have a really good property manager, which is very hard to find, like really hard to find, it's not passive. Things break, residential tenants default. 20% of renters in the United States are behind on rent right now. 20% default rate. You know, so it's definitely become tougher because, you know, rents go up, wages are not going up, so it's become hard for people to pay rent. You know, the average rent in Manhattan is, for one bedroom is $4,000 right now. I mean, a little more expensive than Georgia, but so I added the listing in the comments to this specific property that I used for an example, and I'm going to add the first part of the video will just be kind of showing that listing, And then the second part is going to be the two different type of loan amounts and the different type of payments. And I'll add another good calculator I use if you want to figure out what type of payment, just principal and interest you'll be paying. I'm going to add that as well. And if you have any questions, leave a comment.